The potential reversal of Roe v. Wade would not only be a defining development on America's health landscape, but also on its political one. The leak itself and the contents of the draft opinion from the highest court in the land suggesting that federal abortion rights will soon disappear, further polarizing a sharply divided Congress. So, what do this and other issues like Title 42 and Russia's war on Ukraine mean for both parties in the midterms? Fox 40 is your local election headquarters. So here to help walk us through it all are Fox 40's political analysts from both sides of the aisle, Democrat Andrew Acosta and Republican Tab Berg. Gentlemen, good morning to you. Good to have you back.
Good morning.
The accusations really flying around Washington about who leaked this draft opinion on Roe. Many believe it had to be someone trying to help Democrats by stirring up the now obvious ire we have seen from coast to coast by supporters of choice. But what about the thought that if this is a political move, someone may have been trying to help Republicans and underscore support for former President Trump by letting everyone know that this reversal that so many had fought for so many years was coming? Andrew, what do you think about that?
Well, I think there's a lot of speculation on what this is potentially the impact, and I don't think anyone knows yet. It's not an October surprise; it's May, so we'll have to see what the final what the courts actually do this summer. And I think it's hard to project with polling of what this looks like for midterm elections in November when there's so many other issues that are out there.
Okay, Tab, what's your take on this?
Well, yeah, I mean, if it was a political maneuver, it was one of the sloppiest ones I've seen. But the reality is, I think, as Andrew had said, is we can't really measure the impact. I mean, and the reality is, even if this was a real ruling, and even if the Supreme Court did follow through, it would have zero impact on California. So, because, California, unless 32 Republican assembly people and 21 Republican, 32 Democrat assembly members and 20 Republican Democrat senators lose, California is going to remain a pro-choice state.
All righty. And I know that you're saying it's a little early to be looking at this, but let's talk about the next presidential election. I need you to get your crystal balls. Is this potential reversal of Roe v. Wade the best campaign ad ever for Trump? Need he not do very much to be able to walk away with the Republican nomination, since his focus was on the courts and he's being credited with getting the country kind of to this point? And what could a Republican challenger say that might overshadow that accomplishment in a conservative voter's mind, Tab?
Well, I think it's an issue, but I don't think it's going to be the only issue, and I don't think it's the overwhelming one. I think right now people are having a hard time putting food on the table. They're having a hard time buying gas to get to a job. They're struggling with the rising crime rates, and the problems on the border. So I think it would be one issue, and I'm not convinced that the landscape is clear at this point on either side of the aisle in terms of who's going to be the nominees and who's going to be facing each other.
All righty. Andrew, when it comes to President Trump getting back in this, is what the U.S. Supreme Court may do with Roe the best campaign ad ever for him?
I don't know. I mean, we're a long way away from a presidential campaign, so it's hard to start predicting what the best ad would be this far out. I think it gives Democrats like Governor Newsom a lot to talk about. Beyond that, it's just really hard to play the game of what if.
As we dial back from the next presidential election and talk about the midterms, Build Back Better, the president's social infrastructure agenda, has fallen kind of out of the headlines after it was blocked late last year by Senator Joe Manchin. We heard all of this chatter about how the individual pieces of that plan would be pushed forward individually and not as a package, but that really hasn't happened either. Will that stalled agenda still have an unfortunate impact on other Democrats who pushed for it, or is all of that eclipsed by the Roe v. Wade issue, Andrew?
It's hard to know. I mean, and I think what we're dealing with here in California is top of the ticket drives a lot of it, a lot of turnout. There's no real race for governor, and we'll have to see what happens after June. But we went through this in 2014 when Jerry Brown was up for a re-election, and there wasn't a ton of energy at the state level, and Obama wasn't really popular. So if Biden's not popular, it could be hard in some seats, but there's so few contested seats in California that it's really tough to sort of game out what this impact is. And adding choice on top of, I know people are going to speculate in Orange County what this looks like for congressional races, but we'll have to see.
Tab, when it comes to the stalled Build Back Better provisions, do you think that is a real hit for other Democrats in the state and elsewhere?
Well, I think unquestionably. I mean, the economic malaise and the anxiety that the public feels financially, as well as on the crime issue, I think it's palpable with voters at this time. And I think it's going to weigh like an albatross around the neck of many of the Democrat candidates.
The end of Title 42, the Trump-era policy that forces migrants out of the U.S. away from the border to stop the spread of the coronavirus, is expected to sunset May 23rd. President Biden's just been torn up by Republicans about having a lax attitude to illegal crossings. Californian Kamala Harris, his vice president, put in charge of border issues, but is accused of not taking any meaningful action. Andrew, now some Democrats are asking for Title 42 to remain in place, and we know it's the CDC that really makes the decision here because this is a health policy. But is that what you think should happen?
I don't know. I mean, I think this, again, cuts both ways. There are progressives who want to see things happen quicker on the border, and then there are conservatives who are pushing the other way. So I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. And I think what we saw before we got on is the coronavirus, where is it? So, how do all these things interact? And the CDC does have to make a decision. And it looks like this virus is continually changing. So it's really tough to understand how this is going to play out on the policy level. But on the political level, it's probably not going to be a winner for the president.
Tabby, your take on this Title 42 situation?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Andrew's right. I mean, it's a muddle on both sides. But what's really, I think, going to be frustrating is the confusion that the Biden administration seems to have over its own policy. At the time it's ramping up Title 42 deportations or denials, it's on the other side saying we want to get rid of Title 42. So I think that confusion and that mixed message and that seeming, confusion that the president has over his own policies is going to be a big problem for Democrats.
All right. President Vladimir Putin just gave a Victory Day speech in Red Square looking back on World War II, saying that today Russia is fighting in Ukraine to protect the motherland and that all of this started to ward off aggression from the West. 60 people killed over the weekend in Russian airstrikes on a Ukrainian school. Republicans in Congress have urged President Biden to do more. Tab, what else, aside from all of the billions in aid sent, what else is he failing to do, but that would also keep America from actually being in the fight?
Well, I think the lethal aid component is what I think the Ukrainians have been demanding the most, and particularly the release of the airplanes. I think a couple of weeks ago, I had predicted that he would have to capitulate on that and provide those. But it's a difficult situation for all of the components in there. I mean, I think we're at 3,500 civilian deaths at this point, and there is no way that Putin is going to pull back, and there's no way that Ukraine is going to capitulate. So the U.S. has to at least be a leader at the UN in terms of saying, this is how we're going to resolve it.
Andrew, and is the president doing all the right things, or is he missing something here?
Well, I think it's a fine line, right? We're talking about two world powers that could fall into a war if somebody makes a mistake. And I think he's doing the best he can. I know the First Lady was there this weekend visiting. So, there's a lot of things that people are pushing for, but, nobody wants to send American troops into this situation. I think it's something that, these are big time questions and concerns that people much smarter than me are trying to make decisions on this. And it's not, in my sense, a political thing. This is much more about policy and what happens for the greater Western world than about winning a political battle.
All right, we're going to have to put a pin in it. There's so many huge issues that our lawmakers are wrestling with. Thank you so much for your insight this morning.
Thank you.